Hi, this is Phil Potempa. Welcome to another edition of Notoriety. Each week we bring you everything that you need to mark on your calendar, what you should know about, all that planning that makes sure you don't miss any of the opportunities, everything happening in Northwest Indiana, Chicagoland, and beyond. And of course, it's the broadcast equivalent these past 9 years of the print edition columns that appear in the flagship Post-Tribune, which of course is underneath the umbrella of Chicago Tribune Media. So you can capture all those stories, feature stories, columns, and everything at chicagotribune.com that you might miss. Of course, we couldn't be here without the generosity of the underwriters, the friends, folks like People's Bank, Andy and Sue Arnold, such wonderful arts advocates for throughout Northwest Indiana and the region. And over the years, the Legacy Foundation, Indiana Arts Commission, and of course, Theater at the Center, our home away from home, the badge that we wear so proudly, located at the Center for Visual and Performing Arts with all kinds of program that you will always want a front row seat for. Some of you are tuned into our digital radio airwaves at 12:30 a.m. on the dial as we broadcast to you, and we'll stamp it on this Tuesday during Holy Week. It's March the 31st, our final day of March. And we know the expression, March either comes in like a lamb and goes out like a lion, or vice versa. And right now we have some sound effects as we broadcast on this date-stamped Tuesday with some thunderstorms rolling through. So I think lion is probably appropriate for this in 2026. You might be hearing it as a rebroadcast, so that allows you to plan accordingly as we broadcast from our Strack and Van Til studios here in Hammond, our original studio space from the 1950s. If you do have the added advantage, you found us through streaming or social media, you have the cameras in your window to the world, and you see that the studio desk looks like unearthed buried treasure. There's a treasure chest front and center that is spilling out with all kinds of gold coins. There are crowns to be found here in various Easter lilies and some really fragrant hyacinths that are blooming. And I'm joined by co-host Tony Panek.
How's it going, everybody?
Longtime radio personality here at WJOB and a returning journalist, friend, neighbor, and the man around town that knows so much, as I say, a little bit about everything enough to be dangerous, right? Joseph Pete from our friends at the Times.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being back. The last time I think you had a small one with you. And
Oh,
it was
yes.
at the old studio, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So we are always friends with Joseph and, of course, colleague Meredith, who is one of the bylines that shared at the Post-Tribune with me. Look what I brought for you, some additional branding.
Okay.
Today's Times newspaper, you can hold it up and we can be equal opportunity.
It's a crossover event.
Joseph writes quite a bit of that newspaper every day, and we're so glad he does. And I mean this heartfelt. You are one of the treasures of the region, because we're talking about lost treasures. That's the book front and center right here. That is brand new, hardcover. It is a great addition to the coffee table. Could be in your Easter basket, or I'm thinking Mother's Day coming up, Father's Day. And Joseph is the author of this great piece. We've been wanting to get him in here, and he's been busy with book signings and lectures. Finally, we've got some time to visit with him about it. Tell us a little bit first of when it hit bookstalls. When did it come out?
Oh, in September. It's by Reedy Press. They put out a couple of my other books, Secret Northwest Indiana and 100 Things to Do in Northwest Indiana Before You Die.
And Joseph is a true journalist like myself. We're always trying to kind of whittle away, and you're talking to folks. Even as long as I've been writing, and I feel like a dinosaur here, I've been writing for the last more than 35 years, I still learn about new things in Northwest Indiana that I'll say, I didn't know that this actress originally was from here. And as you'll know as well, and Tony, there are sometimes folks that are notable who they have the stamp of being from Northwest Indiana. Maybe they only spent a few years being raised here, and then they were off and about to Chicago or someplace else. But I'm always finding out new things all the time with your books, and you've done so many, and that's what so many of them have, the same theme of uncovering something that's a hidden that you may not have known or you hadn't thought about in a long time, and you capture space by space. This hardcover looks like it's divided by categories. Is that right? I see food and drink on one of the pages here.
Oh, absolutely, yes. In the region, though, we do love to take a lot of credit for people who are only here for a couple of years. Like, the Jackson family obviously had roots here, but Michael Jackson only lived here for part of his childhood, and
sure.
Borman would be the best example, where he spent most of his childhood in Arizona, and we still got the highway named after him. And,
yep, Greg Kinnear is one, I think. Greg Kinnear always has Logansport. Well, he was part of, I think, military family. You know that, being a member of our military and him served your time. He was just at Logansport, I think, for just a quick wink, and then on and about other places, right?
Oh, yes, yeah. Brendan Fraser in Indianapolis. There are so many that where we lay claim to Yeah,
It counts though, right? It counts.
I think it does.
I guess we can check a box, but tell us, what are the categories in this book? When I see food and drink is one of them.
Oh, sure, absolutely. It's part of a series. Most of Reedy, they do local interest, and with local interest publishing, typically most of the main publishers that do it will do series where they do the same format for books like for different places all over the country, from like Cape Cod to the Bay Area or whatever. And so it kind of got to follow their template. But it's food and drink, entertainment, retail, media, community, and covering all kinds of different subjects like natural wonders, railroads, car makers, industrial.
All the favorite topics, and again, it's nice because there's a history, there's a bit of an edge to it, but also just a lot of light subject. You write so many of the headlines. There's so much heavy out there. This is kind of a fun diversion, I bet, to go through and see a memory or a bit of nostalgia. Or are there things, again, that are not just, a trace of what used to be, but it's still there. Go visit it right now. Is it some of both?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. It is supposed to be nostalgia, things that kind of faded. But I tried to keep it. Two of the challenges with this one, like most of my previous books focused on the region, they asked me to do a statewide book this time. So I have to cover the whole state from Lake Michigan to the Ohio River and make sure covering, it's a lot of Northwest Indiana and Indianapolis, of course, because that's where the population centers are. That's where a lot of people live, a lot of storied institutions in a lot of those places, whether it's department stores or movie palaces or what have you. But I tried to make sure everyone was geographically covered from, Muncie to Kokomo to Evansville. And it's a pretty diverse state because, you talk about Northwest Indiana, it's kind of a lot in common with the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, obviously Chicago, Michigan. Somewhere like Evansville is a lot more connected to the South. So you have a hugely varied state from everything from culture to geography to topography to, all kinds of different things. And then I also had to cover a lot of the time frame where, it goes all the way back to like La Petite Fort in Chesterton, where there was a Revolutionary War battle that was actually fought here in Northwest Indiana. But it goes back, even before that, even before Indiana's statehood. But it also, I tried to do a lot of stuff of more kind of contemporary vintage where, things like the Mascot Hall of Fame or the Dillinger Museum or things that people would still remember in the recent past. A lot of the restaurants are like that, where it's, kind of to kindle nostalgic memories.
Now, with the 4 books I've done, I think my publisher is different than I use Pediment Press is the one I've done since 2004. Yours is a little bit different. I've never asked you this question before. Are they pretty much hands off because they know you, they know the history, or will they sometimes try to steer you and say, I know that you love, I'm just throwing out an example, it's just hypothetical. I know you love restaurants, but maybe just do 2 or 3, Joseph, and let's get more of destination in there or get more dunes in there. Or no, they're hands off. Whatever you provide them with content, they massage and they make it work.
It's more, it's twofold. It's up front, like where they want you to have like, try to do like, this is a 200-page book. Try to do like 50 restaurants or try to do like, 10 amusement parks or whatever. But then like once you turn in the manuscript, they're generally more accepting. They've been pretty good about like, I've had some ones that kind of stretch the boundaries. Like in a past book, I did the Frosty Walk that they do every year on the winter solstice in Whiting Robertsdale, where they do they read the Robert Frost poem on the darkest night of the year, and they thought that might be a better one for their secret series. But I was like, I advocated for it, and they decided to leave it.
They included it then.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one I kind of played a little bit fast and loose with the theme. It is definitely like Lost Treasures, but sometimes what was lost was just like a name. For instance, I included Deer Creek, which is kind of like the Indianapolis version of the Sears Tower or the Sox Park or Comiskey Park, where now it's the the Verizon, or it's the Ruoff Music Center in Noblesville, and it's still there, obviously.
Sure.
But like everyone still calls it Deer Creek,
yes,
whereas no one uses the Willis Tower, no one says Rate Fields, certainly no one says Griffith Museum of Science and Industry, but it's kind of the version of that. So but it's one thing that's amazed me too is like with these books, it could, especially when you do the travelogue ones, it can kind of be tricky because you kind of have to try to get stuff that's not going to go out of business in a couple of years. You want it to kind of make sure it has longevity.
That's tough to do, right? Because I know
Tony.
when I did my series, Panic in the Region, some of those places sadly are no longer with us anymore. But I get that point. Not just this book, but all your books. You put a lot of research into them. I mean, how many hours do you take to come up with this premise of book?
For you to get that out?
I take it you spend a lot of time in libraries and such searching this info.
Oh, 100%. Oh, but so sorry, just to finish the one real quick. The part of what surprised me with this one is like everything old is new again almost. Because I, for instance, played a little bit fast and loose and included the Gary Bears as the big effort to bring the Bears to Northwest Indiana, and all of a sudden that's topical again.
Yeah.
I also included the Indianapolis Clowns in Indianapolis, where like Hank Aaron got his career there. They had Tony Stone, the first women's professional baseball player in history, and they signed a lot of the first women to play baseball. And then they actually got revived as part of the Savannah Bananas brand now, and then which I didn't know when I was writing it.
Full
but that's the
circle
thing.
moment.
Like
Yeah.
Research.
it hits the newsstand now, but it's like it's it's 2 years of like research where you're up in libraries and you're up in and this one was definitely more challenging than some of the ones to research. Because, like, I did the book about Hammond. I did a book about East Chicago. You're pretty much holed up in, like, the Hammond Library, the East Chicago Library. You're interviewing people, but, like, a lot of, like, when you're getting historic photos and, there's a couple places in the area. This one, I had to kind of traverse the entire state. And it was, I had to reach out to pretty much every historical society from, Mishawaka to... across from Louisville, like the ones Clarksburg and downstate, and all over from Bedford to Terre Haute to Richmond. And I didn't necessarily have to travel to all of them, but I definitely had to reach out to them, ask what photos they had, talk to them to make sure I wasn't missing any kind of really prominent places, because I didn't want people to open it and be like, well, why didn't you include this, that, or the,
That's always the one, that email you get or that phone call. Let's make sure we sandwich in a commercial here. Give us the name of the book, the title, and where folks can get it.
Absolutely. Lost Treasures of Indiana. It's widely available at bookstores across the state, locally in local bookstores, Miles Books in Highland, the Press, Green Door Books, the local Barnes & Nobles, things of that nature.
And you do lectures and signings. I know that you're busy also with family and reporting, but during the spring, there will be more of those coming up, too. If we watch our newspaper and social media, we'll see you out and about with it, giving lectures.
Yeah, there'll be a couple. It's that's died down a little bit, but I'll still definitely be doing a few.
Now, there is one fun question I've never asked you, but I ask you this time, Joseph. That tough Larry King, Joan Rivers question. Are you ready for it?
Oh, sure.
So what about with this book or one of the other books, you're researching, you're gathering things. You're in such a wonderful place because you have access to the entire Times archive. Was there ever a time where you found something and thought, hey, Phil wrote something on this in the past. This is going to help me out a little bit because at least it has some of the nuts and bolts, and that'll be a lead to keep fishing further. Or no?
No, your stories have actually ended up in quite a few of these books, honestly. In this one, I think,
which is always so nice, and I hope that you continue that because otherwise, all this will get lost without you, Joseph.
Yeah.
So
I interviewed you for the East Chicago one. I interviewed about Betsy Palmer and some of the other, and so you were featured as a source in that one.
Yeah.
And then this one, I don't remember entirely offhand, but I think like DC's Country Junction and some of the entertainment venues, Star Plaza, some of those ones. I was definitely using your articles as reference for the.
I'm glad it's always a starting place or anything that you need. You recapture it, and it's new again, and I appreciate.
But both
that.
in the Times and the Post Tribune. But with a lot of the entertainment stuff, you definitely had a.
Now here's what I said. If
the...
I can stump the panel, including our producer here. One story I wrote a long time ago, and it's one of these things where now I don't know if you win. It might be so sad that. But have any of you four, including our producer Ariana, heard of something? I almost called it Smallville. But in Chester, there was this worldwide, they said, destination called Littleville, right? Was it that? And then it had a little castle and little miniature houses and cottages. And it was almost like Gulliver's Travel. Lily put, where it was all
heard of it.
Small scale, and people would come and see it, and there would be vendors and balloons. And when I wrote about it was way back when I was still with the Vidette Messenger, and it was just in somebody's backyard because the residential area, again, this was at the turn of the century, had built up, and the folks that lived there said, yeah, in the back there's like a crumbling little castle back there. I don't know what that is, but our kids used to play with it, and it was the ruins of the castle of Littleville. Has that been in any of the books?
Yes, Littleville is actually in this one, and that's actually a good. That's actually a good tie-in too, because at the Times you did do some great like slideshows on like Guide to 25 or 50 things in region history. You did several of them, and there are excellent starting points for research. I think almost everything from like one of them is in the book in one way or another.
That is great.
At least mentioned, and then it does have the Littleville, and I definitely used to use a starting point for the research as that. But it was a steelworker that during the Great Depression they had a craze for these like rock gardens, and they were people were doing all kinds of miniature gardens, and he started making them and selling them as kind of a side gig. These buildings, miniature buildings that he would sell at the side of like a feed store, like on 12 or 20 at the time. But then he got kind of obsessed with it, and it blossomed into this big, where he basically built this miniature town with everything from like a church steeple with like, it was very elaborate. Like they had had a choir that would sing in the church steeple. The bells would go off at like noon and 6 p.m. They had a ship where it was they had a ship where there was a band on the deck, and there was it would be lit up. And they had he built it like it was an interesting medley of things too, because it had like a refinery that I think was supposed to be based on Standard Oil, but then he would have like a courthouse where he would be reading Life magazine, and he saw like an inspiring looking courthouse in Iowa, and so he would model it after that rather than anything he had seen directly himself. But it was like an interesting medley of where it had baseball diamonds and castles and every building you could imagine.
It's so nice. That art is what anchors each of the stories as well. So it is a full size, as you saw with our camera pan here, or if you're listening to the radio dial, it is a beautiful coffee table book. And can you give us a price point? It is around how much?
It's around 40. It's a little bit more pricey, but it is a coffee table book with like
a hardcover commemorative
200 plus photos.
And I bet it's limited edition.
I don't know if it's. I think they'll publish. Okay, it's limited. Yeah, it's limited edition.
What book number is this now? How many books do you have on your belt?
This is book number 5.
5. So Treasures of Indiana, 100,000 Things to Do Before You Die.
Chicago.
Yeah. Is there anything you left for a possible other book, or have you covered the region in Indiana?
Oh, there's more.
Oh no, there's definitely more. I'm working on one about Crown Point now that the History Press, my other publisher, asked me to do.
Crown Point.
Yeah,
that's a scoop. That's a scoop.
Now, you do agree with me, and you can disagree. It's okay. But there's that old phrase out there. They say, you know what? There's a book in every person. Everybody doing a book is different than us just doing a story. It's almost like giving birth to a baby when it's done. It's so exhaustive that it's tedious and it's tough. And in today's world of publishing, again, few people get the honor to do that. So my hat's off to you, Joseph. But do you think anybody can be an author, or no, it takes somebody who can really follow their deadlines and stick to it and create something like this?
Multifaceted answer. Yes, I do believe everybody has a book in them. It is definitely way more challenging, as you know, than doing an article. It's even just copy editing it as yourself, before it gets to the publisher. To turn in a clean draft is challenging because, you've read the same thing 500 times and you kind of get blind to what's actually on the page. It's kind of what's in your head. And then, there's logistical challenges to maintaining the structure of that length and things of that nature. But I do think if everyone is determined enough, like they definitely could write a book. But the key is we live in a world of shortcuts where, people want to use AI or whatever, like these days. And then, some people maybe rush to self-publish or that kind of thing. But if you put the time into it and you put the work into it, everybody definitely could, write a book. But I would definitely encourage you to read and then write what you like to read would be my main advice.
With his answer, he said they could do it if they have the help of AI.
No, that's not what I meant at all. I meant that's sorry, that's not what I was meaning to apply it anyway. No, I'm saying people. There are people now who they're trying to get shortcuts to get to the end, and it's not. You can't really. A book is not really something you can do with shortcuts.
Teasing, he didn't use AI for this at all, but we were talking about this all morning. I heard the morning show. They had Michelle from the Post Tribune and Verley, and then Jim was here at the desk. And AI is moving forward, and it could digest a bunch of information, and it could produce a book. But it's so true, though, what Michelle was saying, colleague from the Post Tribune, that it may not be entirely accurate. AI still, I don't know, when you search things, sometimes it'll have it just a little bit off. Like it'll say, Phil Potempa is the author of several On the Farm books. Well, no, it's called From the Farm, and it's not several. There are 4. Yeah. So AI, really, have you found that too when you're searching things?
I personally don't like it, and I don't use it. But I hate how it's thrust upon you now when you're trying to use just like Google or.
It's the top search thing.
Yeah. They sunk a huge amount of capital into it, so they're trying to force it on you when you're doing various things. But I don't, for research, I don't find it reliable at all because of the hallucinations. Yeah. It's basically regurgitating information that's from it. hurts us in the news business because it's regurgitating the work that we do, and I'd much rather the primary source is kind of what you need when you're
At least
doing
with
research.
Wikipedia, it's going to take you to the references, and we can find
Yes.
ourselves. And
Wikipedia
again,
is
it's a starting
infinitely
point,
more reliable
you know?
than
that used to be the first search, result, and now it's not because of the algorithms of driving AI there. But we're here to talk about a fantastic new book. I'm thinking for Easter, surprise mom for Mother's Day. It could be something for Dad for Father's Day, or just as a birthday gift. It's just been out since September. Joseph has been so busy during the holidays we couldn't get him in here, and finally he got some free time to be in the studio with us. The title of the book is
Lost Treasures of Indiana.
And Joseph Pete from the Times, and he has got a long history with the Times now. You've been there how many years, Joseph?
Oh, yikes.
If I was
13.
there 25 years
Yeah,
before I left.
13 years, I guess.
13 years, and originally from right here in the region, born. So he is a wonderful, wealth of knowledge when it comes to producing books, and he is on his several books. So 7 books, right? Didn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So he really has a lot.
I got to ask
material.
my Larry King question now, and it's a controversial one here,
Okay,
Joseph.
all right.
So buckle up for a little
Oh
bit.
boy.
The region. You covered the region. You're a region guy. Couts. Is Couts a part of the region?
I'd like to prefer. Okay, the people have the very a lot of. I understand where people are coming from, where they're like the authentic region, Whiting, East Chicago, Gary Hammond.
Some people
I
say
get-
those only 4 of the region.
I get where they're coming from, but I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want as broad and expansive a Northwest Indiana as possible, like strength in numbers, a wider area. They do have an excellent pork festival there. They got
do,
an interesting
yes.
downtown. It's definitely in Porter County. I would definitely, I mean, personally, I would definitely, even if you're going to say it's not in the region, I mean, it is in the region. It is the Calumet region is the watersheds between or not between, but like the watersheds of the
river,
Grand
right?
Cal
Yeah.
and the Little Cal.
Yeah.
So it's definitely within the boundaries of the Calumet region. I get where people are coming from with that, but I mean, it's Porter County. I would 100% count it. It's
There you
definitely
go.
worth visiting if you haven't been. They also do that interesting. They're one of the best Halloween displays is out there too. That Nightfall Manor or Ravenfell Manor.
Yeah. One of the
I've heard of
walk-through
that,
haunted
yeah.
houses.
Yes, that one is
Yeah.
incredible.
That's right.
So this is more of a history book, but with my travelogues, that's one thing I like to emphasize is there's like all kinds of small off the beaten path stuff to check out in Northwest Indiana. That's cool if you're willing to go look for it.
Now I know
Like-
Tony wants to ask this, and there'll be a tear in his eye. But did you put Peteyville in there, and now it's not around anymore?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
Petey, but that's going to make you shed
Did
a
that
tear.
happen to you, or no? It's not
That-
in there.
It's in a couple of my previous books. It was either in 100 Things or Secret Northwest Indiana. It was probably mentioned in both, and then I also talked about it in Lost Hammond, where I did like Gene Shepard's Hammond, and
Yeah.
I did Peteyville's kind of keeping alive the spirit of Gene Shepard. And his
And that's
former
one man.
neighborhood.
That's a one-man show. Pete, you met Pete Basala
Oh,
before.
no, yeah,
I mean, he decorates all 3 homes, so
He's
it's tough.
hardcore. He's got the Christmas tattoos,
Yeah,
with barbed
so-
wire,
He-
with the Christmas lights.
All right, I'm hoping maybe for resurgence one day. We'll see.
Well,
you know.
he said it was kind of a health issue.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the health will be back and they'll be
Yeah.
able to bring it back. He seemed to where it wasn't like I do business closings a lot. I didn't get the sense it was complete. I mean, that can change.
That can change.
I didn't get the sense it was a completely final closure. It was just on hiatus.
So that did make the ins and outs business column, right?
Oh, I wrote a story about it a while ago, but I'm just praying that
Yeah.
because I love taking my daughter there. It's a
Yeah.
great place. It's so unique and quirky. It's it does remind me of the Charlie Brown one where it's like the one with
Yeah.
character versus
Yes, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the synchronized lights ones. Those ones are great too.
Yeah.
But there's the flashy modern ones, and then his is just a very determined. But I see his influence though. I go to different ones like the one in Maryville where they the Wonderland and different.
Oh, nearest 30 there. Yeah, you can drive through them.
But different. I can't remember the name of it. But everybody seems to do that. We really seem to inspire people with the Ferris wheel.
Oh,
Everybody
He's
does
got
the
the
homemade
little
one. Seems
Ferris
to want to do
wheel
a Ferris wheel of
Yeah.
stuffed animals.
And
I don't know if it's intentional, but I'm sure they're at least unconsciously paying tribute.
And he pumps out hot cocoa in the air, so you could smell hot cocoa as
yeah.
you walk around Peteyville.
Is that true, or are
Yeah,
you
it's
making
true.
that up?
Oh, why would I make it up?
Is that true, or is he making it
That
up?
I don't know.
That's
honestly.
true.
No.
That is.
I would
that
not
is
be
true.
surprised, honestly.
Yeah, and the
He's-
Jack Frost.
Yes. Oh, the Jack Frost is
Jack
phenomenal.
Frost
Yeah.
we do know about. if you're just tuning in and hearing that voice, you know the byline because you read the Times, you see him on other types of media forums and panels. It's Joseph Pete, longtime journalist, born and raised right here in the region. He's got a new book out. I was going to mention, I kind of hinted at this. One of the favorite features I love on Sundays in the Times is that business closings, the open, close, in and out column. That, I love that. It's always got, the latest. It seems like Wendy's has been in there a lot lately.
Oh, yeah, unfortunately.
We've been losing
Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut we've been losing. But Joseph Pete's got a brand new book out, so as we're starting to kind of close up here, it's a chance for any kind of fun questions that might be lingering of the top features and things that made his book titled
Lost Treasures of Indiana.
Lost Treasure of Indiana, which, again, available to all of our local booksellers or things. It's nice to get it right there from our bookstores, and I know you can click a button and get it online as well, but to go to Miles or any of these, it's just such a wonderful resource, and especially if you can meet the author. So when he's got book signings and things going on, that's the time to go, because then you get to chit-chat and ask him all those questions. Think of all the things that he wanted to put in there, but he had to, as my mom would say, keep on the QT. All the things that he knows, but he couldn't reveal because loose lips sink ships. But there's a lot of things that we hear in newsrooms that come in and out, and I think you've got really the top-notch ones there. This was a horrible thing, and just a transition here. I sent Joseph some information about the kids' play we have coming up at the Theater Center. That is the Frog Prince and the Princess that's coming up. And there's a little couple nods at regional fun things in there, including Phil Schmitz. And I couldn't believe I had to stop and look up the spelling of Phil Schmitz, which I wrote about so often, but out of sight, out of mind. I hadn't had it in my brain for a while, so I had to Google it. And luckily I did because, I had a couple extra letters in that didn't need to be there. Phil Schmitz was such a destination for dining. Did that make this particular book or no?
Absolutely. It's got a mention. It's that I have written about that one in like Lost Hammond and in other books previously. It's definitely mentioned in here. I try not to repeat myself too much because I know some people do get every book, so I don't want to completely repeat sections and everything, but I have an in-depth thing on the whole history and the fires and the Rockettes with frog leg t-shirts and some of their crazy dessert, or the oil spill, the Standard Oil spill dessert, and all the wild frog legs and that kind of thing in the Lost Hammond book. But it does definitely make one in here. It does definitely include a lot of region restaurants people might finally remember: Strongbow Inn, the Old Style Inn, the Country Lounge in Hobart, a lot of bygone places, the patio in Maryville, a lot of bygone steakhouses and places, Rodini's, places where people hobnobbed.
So many great memories people have. Strongbow's, it goes on and on and on.
I got to ask you, too, about sticking to restaurants here. Tebow's being 96 years old. Is that the longest reigning restaurant establishment in the regions, or is there one that beats that?
That is a great question. Chuck and Irene's is probably pretty old too.
Yeah.
I would have to look into that. There are rumors all the time that they're going to be closing or selling, and it's going to be like a Luke gas station or that kind of thing.
Hope that.
But I've checked repeatedly, and that they're actually doing well. They do periodically close for vacation for the owners, but it's not
Father and
they
son
seem to
Paul
be
and
doing.
Steve have to fight that, and all those wonderful waitresses who have been there so long have to fight those rumors all the time. And I've often said, even to my own readers, I say, it opened in 1929. I know that same age as what my dad was when he was born. So you're right; it's about to be 97 years. We're going to see a century and 100 out of this. They're not going to close anytime soon. That's a prime real estate corner there, but Tebow's is there to stay, and I'm glad that you call and check in with them as well to make sure that they say, yep. Just because we stopped for a couple weeks in January to clean and tidy up, don't think that the shades aren't going back up. We were there on Friday, jam-packed. They had the extra dining rooms all open. And of course, it's the final Friday before Lent. We have Good Friday, so you knew it was going to be
Lake
crowded,
Perch galore over there.
Absolutely. Joseph, there's never enough time to cover everything. Please come back more regularly. Last time was the old studio, so I know Jim likes to stag you for the mornings sometimes, but he's not been doing mornings, so we're always here for you as a platform. So bring us all the latest news.
I'll be happy to.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, our best to the wife and to the family as well.
And Harper will definitely taking Harper to that play.
Oh, absolutely. And one of these flowers is going to go home also for Meredith and Harper as well. So we'll be sending something home with Joseph for the family for the Easter weekend. Tony Panek, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And to our producer, Adriana, thank you as well. And thank you to our viewers and listeners for tuning in for this edition of Notoriety. Again, stamped on the final day of March, March 31st, 2026, no matter when you might be hearing this, if it's a rebroadcast. We wish you well wherever your path might take you, morning, afternoon, or evening.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future.
Do you like to work with your hands, creating something from nothing? Then think about Laborers Local 41. You'll get 432 hours of apprenticeship training, all while earning a wage with benefits and incurring no student debt. You'll travel to different job sites, learn tons of skills, and in a lot of cases, be the first one on and the last one off a job site. It all starts at laborers41.com.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Joe Cimino, and welcome back to the WJLB Sports Update. With the end of high school basketball this weekend, we now start to swing gears towards baseball, softball, and boys volleyball here in the region. So make sure to tune into the Heartland Sportsnet or follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Heartland Sportsnet. Even with Purdue out, the state of Indiana continues to represent as Braylon Mullins, a Greenfield native, hits the shot of the year, draining a 35-footer with .3 seconds left on the clock to seal the upset and a 19-point comeback as the Huskies upset number 1 Duke 73-72 to send UConn to the Final Four. The other game of the night was not as exciting as Michigan took control early, leading by 22 at half, and dominated the rest of the way with a final score of 95-62. UConn will face number 3 Illinois, and Michigan will face number 1 Arizona right here in Indianapolis, both this Saturday, April 4th. Finally, just a quick recap as both Chicago MLB teams lost yesterday again. The Cubs finished the series 1-2 against the Nationals and look to move forward as they host the Angels the next 3 days. The White Sox go winless against the Brewers to start the year and continue their road trip as they head to Miami to try and get one in the win column in a 3-game series against the Marlins. That's all I got today, folks. I'll be back soon enough to give you guys the scoop on local and national sports, as well as the world of high school sports in the region. To support your favorite local teams live, make sure to tune in to the Heartland Sportsnet or over the radio on WJLB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, or on the TuneIn app to keep up to date with sports and current events in the region.